about parent conversation classes. These are my favorite classes to teach, and I'm really excited to share with you all about them today. So I'm going to talk about how I first was introduced to these classes, what they do, and then share with you the curriculum that I have developed for these classes. So first, a little bit about me. My name is Anna Green, and I studied anthropology and history as an undergraduate. Then I volunteered in the Peace Corps in Morocco for 2 years, and later got my master's in ESOL from UMBC. Right now I'm teaching with 3 different programs: English Now, a private language school in Bethesda, Maryland, Howard County Public Library Project Literacy, and also VIP Kid Online. And I've taught the parent conversation classes with both English Now and Howard County Library. I'm also a parent of 2 kids, so here are my kids. This is Claire and Aaliyah. They're now 2 and 5. So as a parent, I want to start by asking you guys a question here. What do you think is the hardest part about being a parent? And if you're not a parent, that's fine. Just what do you think your students would say? Or what do you think others would say is the most difficult thing about being a parent? And you can just put it in the chat box and I'll look for your answers there. Yeah, how unpredictable children are, definitely. Time management, for sure. A lot of work to take care of them, definitely. Tantrums, yes, I'm dealing with those a lot with my 2-year-old. Making good decisions for family and kids, getting children, students to understand that not everything they want is in their best interest. ESL parents are concerned about parent-teacher conferences, yeah, definitely. And hoping they persist and stay healthy. Yeah, there are so many different things, so many challenges. Juggling schedules, raising them to be good kids. Yeah, great examples. So as we can see, so many different things, so many things parents are considering. And now we have this added layer for parents who are learning English. So we had a great example in the chat about ESL parents worried about parent-teacher conferences. This is a great example because they have to not only think about how to help their child, but how to communicate about their child in a foreign language. So this is the problem that these classes address, is first and foremost the English language, helping parents to learn how to speak English in those settings like a parent-teacher conference or a play date or the doctor's office or any kind of outside interaction they have outside of the home where they need to use English. So these are English classes for parents to develop that skill. And then also, importantly, these families are living away from they're living away from close family and friends, and they don't really have that support system that many parents have when they're living in their native country. So this class also kind of provides a little bit of community for those parents. They can meet other parents going through similar things and kind of talk and share ideas with each other at the same time as they're learning English. So they're developing their linguistic skills and also developing cultural knowledge about parenting in the United States. This class was started by one of the owners of English Now in Bethesda, Maryland. She sent me this great description of why she started the class. This is Elizabeth Boson here with her first Parent Talk class. And what she talked about mainly is that there are these 2 components, like we've said. First, coming to the country and not knowing anyone. As a parent, that's an especial challenge. And then becoming a new mom. Parents with young kids are having this whole new experience while being in a foreign country. So those are the two things that she really saw that she wanted to address in the class. And what she saw was that community was key. Building this sense of community was key for the parents. So that's why this developing English and also developing a community are emphasized by the classes. And the way she designed the class was that it was for parents of young kids. So you can see in the picture, these are kids between 0 and 3, and the parents can bring their kids to class with them. The kids play together with toys on the floor while the parents sit around in a circle and practice their English. So this really allows the parents to study English, whereas they may not be able to otherwise, since they would need to find a childcare or someone else to take care of their kids while they're at the class if it weren't designed this way. So originally it was designed for kids from 0 to 3. I've also taught it for parents of older kids, and it changes the dynamic, but it always adds to the conversation. Parents can compare notes or learn about what's coming for their kids. Also, it's for dads and moms. I've also taught it for grandmothers, other people in the family. This always just adds to the dynamic of the class. So when I teach these classes, I try to give the parents this opportunity to connect with other parents, not just in the class, but also provide language and information that they can use to make parent friends outside of class as well. When I did some needs analyses of my students and talked to them about what they most hope to get from the class, most of them would say that they're hoping to connect with other parents so that they can find playmates for their kids and also friends for themselves to build their community. So the curriculum really focuses on scaffolding the students' interactions with other parents. But it also has a lot of other aspects. So a lot of different subjects. Each class focuses on a different kind of area of parenting so that they can develop their vocabulary there in different parenting situations and subjects. So my next question for you all is, what are some topics that you think would be useful for these parents? So you can put in the chat box any topic suggestions or topic ideas that you think would be great for a parent conversation class. Yeah, local resources. What to expect in parent-teacher conferences. Yeah. How to navigate pediatric doctor's appointments. The education system in the United States. Yeah, doctor's appointments again. Transportation. Yeah, great examples. Shopping, understanding forms. That can be a big challenge. Making friends. Definitely. So this is how I always like to start the class with my students also in the first session. I'll say, like, what do you want to get from this class? What are some topics that are really meaningful to you? And they're very similar to the examples you're giving here. Banking and financial literacy, creating their own community, resources available to them through the school system for early intervention. Yeah. So yeah, the school system may be a great area to focus on, definitely. Adapting to the new environment. Yeah, so there are so many different topics to include here, and you all give great examples. These are some of the ones that I have used in the past. We can see some of the examples you all gave, like shopping or visiting the doctor. And so I use this for each class to cover a different topic related to parenting. So before each class, I will give them an article to read about the topic, and then we discuss it during the class. So I will start by giving them some vocabulary that we will be using during the discussion, and then providing some discussion questions about the topic. So I want to share with you now the table of contents. So this is a list of topics I focused on in a session that went from September to June or July. And this is available after my presentation. If you're interested in using this with your students, you can find the articles I used and then also the handouts based on your students' interests. And I want to just give you one example of how this would work. So if I wanted to talk to them about play dates, how play dates are done, what you can talk about, what you can do. This is one article that I've used, how to do a play date. Now this one is kind of a mom's blog, and I use these a lot because there are so many mom blogs, but also in the blogs, moms use a lot of informal language like they might use in conversation with friends. So it's a great example for the students to see kind of how moms talk to each other in informal ways, because if the students have studied English from a textbook, they'll have learned kind of like the descriptive grammar and how uh, English is supposed to be spoken, but often in conversation it's very different. So I like to use blogs in class sometimes to give that example, and this one is very much like that. And then during class, after they have read this, we will talk about it, and I will give them some vocabulary, talk about some of the things that were in the article, and then continue to some discussion questions. So for example, did your parents take you on play dates? What do you remember? To start thinking about how it was for them in the past. Often I like to do a question like, how was it with your parents? And then how is it now with your kids? I also like to include questions so we can see if there are any differences. This always leads to really interesting conversations about some differences that they have noticed. And then also why playdates are important, talk about playdates I have done, and then just develop and use that vocabulary that was introduced in the handout. So here's another example of an article I've used. And this one is about parenting differences between different countries. And here's another example of a handout where they would see the vocabulary and then some discussion questions. I've also adapted the curriculum a little bit to align with CASAS, and this is just a few examples of how it can relate to the competencies. So some of the ones we covered, and you all gave some good examples of this also, are talking about the healthcare system. How do you make a pediatrician's appointment? How do you find a pediatrician? What do you say? How can you talk about your child's symptoms? Um, civic responsibilities and activities, access to the educational system, and services. So how do you enroll your child in school? What do you do in the school? How do you interact with the teacher? These are all really important to the students. And then here are some of the content standards, because they have a reading article each week. They can practice with a lot of these different reading skills, like finding specific words, or especially finding if something is fact or opinion. Do they agree with the opinion? Do they disagree with the opinion from the article? And it's always great conversation practice too. So in the past year and a half, I've also taught this class online, and it is possible. There are some challenges and some benefits to teaching this online. So my next question for you all is, what are some pros and cons of adapting this class for distance learning? What do you think are some good or bad things about teaching parent conversation online? So you can put that in the chat box. Yeah, keeps them practicing language skills. Yeah, that's something I've thought about a lot is like it goes from teaching ESOL to English as a foreign language almost when they were just on lockdown. That's definitely a pro. Improves listening. Yeah, definitely. Some listening challenges when it's over the computer. You have to listen a lot more closely. Mhm. As an Asian, sometimes it is hard to interpret what teachers are saying online. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it can be harder when you're looking at someone online. Quick thinking skills and practice. If something goes wrong and you have to fix it online, words can be reinforced in the chat so people can see and hear them. Yeah. A con is overcoming cultural biases is harder in a virtual world than when you are sitting beside a person in a classroom. That's a great point. Definitely, yeah. So we have some great examples of pros and cons in the chat. Thanks guys for sharing those. I think we've all experienced these pros and cons of teaching online over the past year plus. The interpersonal in person is obviously missing. Yeah, we've lost the interpersonal relationship there. Here are a few, I think you've mentioned some of these. For this class specifically, especially for the kids who are very young, they used to play together in the classroom while the moms were learning, and so they would be distracted and entertain each other. When we're teaching the conversation online, the mom is now like responsible for carrying the kid out, and so sometimes that can be more of a distraction or more difficult to focus. Um, Conversation doesn't always flow as smoothly. I think someone said that's very true. Um, Difficult to pick up on nonverbal cues from students, but also for students to pick up on your nonverbal cues. I think someone talked about that. It's harder to understand someone over the internet. Parents are too busy coordinating their children's online activities to continue the conversation class. So some had to stop because they were caring for their children or needing to make adjustments for their children. And parents do not have a device or proper internet connection. We had some presentations this VTI about this also. So depending on the parent's connectivity or childcare situation, this could impact their ability to continue the class. There are also some pros I want to share also. One of the students' favorite aspects is that they can mute their microphone if their child starts crying. And so they like if you're in the classroom, if the child starts having a tantrum, the parent has to go out or feels like they have to go out and take care of that. In the online setting, they can just mute the microphone and continue to stay in the class. They don't need to commute. It's a lot easier, like with the kids, you don't have to load the child in the car and come to the class. They can be napping during the class or doing other things at home. Another key one, and I think someone talked about this in the chat, is that handouts can be made available online. So this is about reinforcing the vocabulary. So what I started doing is when I was teaching this online, I wouldn't write it on the whiteboard. Instead, I would share my screen with the handout and write notes on the handout as we were talking sometimes. So for example, when I shared a vocabulary word, I would then write the definition or some examples that the students gave right on the handout, and they would see that example right in front of them. Or if they gave a response to one of the discussion questions, I could write their answer there and they would see it grammatically correct with any corrections, or also other students could see it. Sometimes if they don't understand what a classmate has said, if they see the example written on the shared screen, then it reinforces that and they can understand it clearly. And most importantly, doing these classes, continue that support system during lockdown. So even though we couldn't meet in person, we could still have these discussions, continue this sense of community and English language learning remotely. So these are some great things about it. So overall, these are the hoped for outcomes for the class, and mainly to help students become more comfortable speaking English in their native language, and help them to better understand informal spoken English. So a lot of my students have studied formal English in the textbooks, and then I want to also have them develop that skill to understand conversational informal English, which they would experience when their kids are in the school system, or when their kids are younger on play dates or other things like that. Increase their knowledge of vocabulary, especially related to parenting topics, such as visiting the pediatrician or a play date, and the culture around parenting in the United States. We talked a lot about how holidays are celebrated, and also ideas about parenting, controversial ideas about parenting in the US, how they differ from those in the students' native countries. Increase students' English conversation skills, help students to become more confident about beginning conversations in English so that they can develop those friendships and support systems, and give them access to the authentic informal parenting language that they might hear with other parents. And the best way that I found is by using those parenting blogs for reading practice as a starting point for them. And then I also wanted to talk about how this class can be provided for different age students. So I talked about how this specific class is designed for parents of young kids, but at the Howard County Library, they've also provided this for parents of older kids, especially in the online setting, so that it could assist parents with adapting to their kids' online learning and help them access the resources and interpret all the new information that was coming out about the remote learning in the school system. And then in addition, it can be offered for parents at different levels of English language. So for this specific curriculum, it's designed for students who are at the intermediate to intermediate high level, but it can be adapted either way. It can be used for beginning students to just give them some of that preliminary vocabulary that they would need, and on up, just depending on the kind of reading material that you would provide, or the vocabulary and level of discussion questions. These are some of the resources that are available for reading material or other information about teaching conversation classes like this. So thank you all for uh, joining for this conversation class presentation. Does anyone have questions before we finish? If you do, you can put them in the chat box. Okay, let's see. Someone said, how did you recruit the participants? So for the English Now classes, this would just be students that were looking for a class in the area, and they would usually walk into the school and find out about this offering. And then at the library, this was advertised on the library website. Do you use a set curriculum? The curriculum I showed is when I developed in 2018 for the class I was teaching then, and then I use that as kind of a basis and draw from it or create new material based on the interests and needs of the students. Yeah, a mixed ESL parent class and hard to find material for everyone. What would be your suggestion? So yeah, I've had this as well, where there are students at different levels, and sometimes I would just assign different parts of the reading, or try to have the lower level students just read one part and then assist them a little bit more. But it is definitely a struggle. Often I found that the once rapport is built within the class, they will assist each other. They're all, but as parents, I think we have this sense of like supporting each other, and they're very patient, more so than in other mixed level classes I've found, where they'll be patient with each other and support or explain when there are lower level students who need support. But yeah, I agree. It is very difficult to find material that can encompass different levels. Okay, I think I think that's all the questions. Um, Let me know if I missed anything.
I think you got
All
them.
right.
So I dropped the link for the feedback survey. So if you wouldn't mind filling that out, but you should get the survey when you exit out. And I also put in the link for the proof of participation. Again, we ask that you just fill out one for all of the sessions that you participated in. And thank you so much, Anna. I have never taught a family literacy class, but everybody that I've ever met who does teach family literacy, they seem to have a very special kind of passion that you don't find in other areas. And I just want to thank you for your willingness to share your resources that you developed. Um, that's great. We really appreciate that. And those resources will be available once we get all the presentations uploaded to our webpage. So thank you again, everybody. We have a few more sessions to go today. So, please go ahead and sign up for any that you may want to still attend. And thank you so much to everybody for participating. You are a great group. You're very engaging and very present. We appreciate that. And again, thank you to Anna. So have a good day.